Drone attacks are increasing and enemy artillery is operating even more intensively. Chernihiv region, which borders Russia, is suffering from Russian shelling. Over the past day, 4 districts came under attack. Most of the attacks in the region are carried out by Shahed and FPV drones. How do people live under constant shelling on the border with the enemy? Watch the report by TSN correspondent Valentina Dobrota. She has just returned from Semenivka. It's only 10 kilometers from the Russian border.
It was a direct hit to the bedroom, closer to midnight, when people were definitely already in bed. Treachery. So typical of the Russians.
The lights went out, everything went dark, they shut off the gas, and then they started working here. And the drones just kept coming, non-stop.
Alexander Yevanovich recalls that right after the explosion, he rushed to his neighbor's house.
If there had been a fire, they would have burned here. Alexander ran with Nadia to the cellar, and my father, yes, he came at midnight.
And they always hid in the cellar, right?
Well, at first, yes, but then a person gets used to it and...
They weren't able to save Mrs. Nadia, the owner of this house. Her 70-year-old husband is in the hospital. His condition is stably serious. They had to amputate his leg. The house is beyond repair. The security situation in Semenivka is only getting worse, and I feel it more with every trip here. There are fewer and fewer people on the streets and more destroyed houses. Enemy drones just hover overhead. And to quickly take cover during shelling, these kinds of modular shelters have been set up all over the city. The air raid alert here is almost non-stop, sometimes lasting around the clock. That's why locals are always listening closely for any unusual sounds.
We've gotten really good at telling them apart. We already recognize the drops, we know the lightning and the wounds. And the Shaheds, by the way, the ones flying toward you, toward Kiev, very often we see them flying right over our heads.
We're also advised to pay attention to the sounds. After the first explosion is heard, we quickly go to the shelter.
Emergency service? Fire department?
At this point, employees of the local administrative service center are already at work.
We're hiding. There was just an impact.
Even under these conditions, Ms. Olena continues to receive visitors because people come from other villages in the community as well.
Checking for absence.
The visitor says that sometimes they are forced to travel to the community center, which is constantly under attack by Russian drones. But every trip to Semenivka is a challenge. Oh, I always feel anxious when I come here. It's scary. Yeah. Oh, that was a strike by a combat drone on the city council building and administrative offices. One of the affected sites caught fire.
Now, during the day, sometimes the fire truck can't even make it to the station, and the fires have become much larger. If before it was just firefighting gear, a Draeger tank, and that's it, now you also need a helmet, a bulletproof vest, and a first aid kit. You have to find out what's in the sky, the security situation.
Now, because of the drought, it's a fire hazardous period. And on top of that, the Russians are deliberately setting houses on fire. So, as Andrei Savitsky says, the rescuers have no time to catch their breath.
It feels like they're creating a buffer zone here so that nothing is left at all. They toss a lighter and the grass burns, the forest burns, the house burns, the barn burns, basically everything. And accordingly, well, the buildings are densely packed, so they start burning one after another.
While we were working in Semenivka, the Russian army carried out 7 targeted attacks on the town using strike drones. Critical infrastructure, private homes, and administrative buildings were targeted. The Russians have also changed their tactics. They launched jet-powered drones that reach speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour. These are harder to shoot down. Additionally, the enemy scatters leaflets designed to look like 100 hryvnia bills, urging people to give up the coordinates of Ukrainian armed forces positions in exchange for real money.
This is a classic example of an enemy information and psychological operation aimed at spreading panic among the population and persuading certain individuals to cooperate. We emphasize that sharing information about the location of Ukrainian troops is a serious criminal offense, but we are confident in the loyalty of our people and the unity of our society. If such leaflets are found, they should be handed over to the police or destroyed.
Enemy troops on the Chernihiv border are simply hunting people. Just a few days ago in this yard, an FPV drone killed a woman who was sorting potatoes.
Well, it happened during the day. Of course, they saw where, what and how. This is terror against the civilian population. I think it's so that the people don't live here, so there is no development, so that we have no life here.
The north of Chernihiv region has always been a depressed area. It's far from the center. The population density is low, and the main jobs are in farming and forestry enterprises. Now the enemy is destroying everything the community relies on to survive. Even ordinary stores are under attack.
There were just 2 explosions. Now no one comes in anymore. Everyone just stays quietly at home and doesn't go out anywhere.
Miss Victoria only recently opened a nail salon, but because of a drone attack, today is not her day.
Whenever there are shellings here, my clients cancel their appointments. Well, there's nothing you can do. Even when you're running between shellings, you still want to look good. It's a way to distract yourself somehow.
The latest wave of drone activity over Semenivka hasn't triggered a mass migration of people, says Miss Victoria.
Yes, it's crowded. We'll see how it goes from here.
But the only school in the community that was operating in person had to be closed. Children from several villages were brought there by school buses.
The children really wanted to study, but as we can see right now, so for now we've made this decision. We'll monitor the security situation. For now it's for a month and then we'll see.
Since the start of the full-scale war, the population of the Semenivka community has decreased by at least a third. There is no mandatory evacuation here, even though this is an area of active hostilities. For those who want to leave, the city council helps with transportation and finds housing in neighboring communities. So far, few people are willing to leave. Their homes, gardens and farms keep them here. Valentina Dobrota, Mikhailo Putiata, TSN 1+1, United News Marathon.
Ukraine's defense forces are narrowing the salient that formed near Dobropilya as a result of the Russian troops' breakthrough. The villages of Volodymyrivka, Pankivka, Mayak and Novotoretske in the Pokrovsk direction are gradually coming under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. Counter-offensive actions are ongoing, even though the enemy is trying to prevent them. The occupiers have increased the number of kamikaze drones attacking our logistics and assault groups, especially near Pokrovsk, where the front line is now moving most actively. In addition, the enemy has intensified pressure on the village of Kotlin south of Pokrovsk. According to the deep state map, some positions have been lost there. In the Lyman sector, the situation is becoming more complicated around the villages of Novoselivka and Drobyshev, which our soldiers liberated during the Kharkiv counter-offensive. Here, the enemy is trying to approach Sloviansk, and another hotspot is the Siversk direction. There, the occupiers are getting closer and closer to this city.
At least 3 people were killed and 6 injured as a result of today's shelling of Kostiantynivka, according to the Odessa Regional Military Administration. Since early morning, the city has been under enemy artillery fire and airstrikes have caused damage. An administrative building, numerous private houses and apartment blocks have been damaged. Enemy shelling continues almost non-stop, and the day before, 5 civilians were injured in the region. 5 apartment buildings and 17 private houses were damaged. 6 people were injured in the Kharkiv region. In Spodobivka, a drone struck a civilian car, injuring 3 elderly residents. In Lyubotin, a school was damaged, and in Kalinove, the cultural center and several houses were destroyed. 2 women also experienced acute stress reactions. In the Kupiansk and Izium districts, residential buildings were damaged and fires broke out. At dawn, the occupiers attacked Antonivka in the Kherson region with a drone. A man was injured, and the day before, an elderly woman was taken to the hospital after an enemy drone attack on the village of Dniprovske. In Kherson, after a drone strike, 2 men required hospitalization. The war criminals also shelled the city with artillery, damaging an apartment building and 6 private houses. There are also casualties in the Sumy region. A man was injured in the Mykolaievska village community when a truck was hit by a strike drone. In Sumy, drones set fire to an industrial zone and killed a man. In total, the Russians struck the region 100 times in one day. 20 glide bombs and 40 different drones targeted cities and villages. 8 private houses were destroyed and the same number were damaged. 45 cars were damaged. 2 people were injured in Dnipropetrovsk region. The occupiers hit Sinelnikivsky district with glide bombs, setting fire to a private house, a combine harvester, and an administrative building. Meanwhile, Nikopol was attacked with FPV drones and artillery, damaging 3 apartment buildings and a church. In Sumy region, 2 women were evacuated and police took 12 of their pets out of the border area from the Myropil community. People with their animals, under heavy enemy fire, barely managed to wait for rescue. A rescue group called the White Angels arrived for them with an evacuation bus provided by volunteers. Near the house, police discovered an unexploded mortar shell that could have detonated at any moment. In addition, there was a threat of Russian shelling. The villagers were evacuated along with all their belongings, mostly cats and dogs. In the footage of the rescue operation, you can see a law enforcement officer literally carrying an elderly woman in his arms to the vehicle and just as carefully helping her out of it.